Hello, racing fans, and a warm welcome to Gallop TV's preview show of Tuesday, the 14th of March, where we race at Durbanville. That's Hollywoodbets Durbanville. And what Cape Town has done for us is they've given us sizable fields with 7 races. So everything will start in race number 1, which will kick off the place accumulator and the bar pot. And as you've come to know on Gallop TV, when it comes to Hollywoodbets Durbanville and Hollywoodbets Kenilworth, it is our very own Graham Hawkins that does the previews. Graham, 12:45, a late start, but they seem to put on a highly competitive card with big fields.
Well-filled fields, as you mentioned. Yeah, only 7 races, and as you mentioned, the bipod starts in race 1 and as well as the place accumulator. But it is another very challenging card. But here or there, I think we can narrow things down.
Graham, just to touch on the course, I haven't been to the, how can I put it, the revamped or the restructured Durbanville, Hollywoodbets Durbanville, but I used to go very often with the old country course. But have you been to after it's been, reconfigured, etc.?
Unfortunately not D's. Obviously, Hollywoodbets Durbanville, the program just started last week. I will be going there later on in the month. I did visit the track, though, on a non-race day, and I have to say to you that the course looks absolutely fantastic.
Yep, and of course, we used to have that shorter run-in. I see now it's actually a 600-meter run-in to the finish, and it's got a 2,000-meter. Just having a look at the configuration, it looks like... maybe it's a wonderful place to visit. Soon, very soon, I'll be there. Race number 1, Graham, let's get straight into it. We are playing blind with the first-timers, but there is some form to recommend, and that form is represented by the debut run of Easy Money between numbers 3 and 9.
Yeah, little to choose between number 3, Double Grand Slam, and number 9, Nile the Boss, on their debut efforts. Nile the Boss finished marginally in front of Double Grand Slam. The Adam Marcus stable is back in top form, and you've got to like the chances of number 9, Nile the Boss. But number 3, Double Grand Slam, is better drawn, and as you know, the draw can be quite critical at Hollywoodbets Durbanville. It's not impossible, of course, to win from a wide draw. You need the pace to be on. You need a little bit of luck in running. But because of the draws, I'm marginally in the camp of number 3, Double Grand Slam, and up ahead of number 9, Nile the Boss. But I think both of these should go into the first leg of the place accumulator and the first leg of the bipod. You should be safe. The 2 well-bred first-timers, the number 4, Quick Trip, that has eased in the early market from 7-2 out to 9-2, but there could still be a late move for it. Beautifully bred daughter of Trippy, out of an Australian mare. And number 2, Jet to the Sun, who is stable companion to Double Grand Slam. Very, very speedy pedigree. Grant van Niekerk rides. So Richard Fourie has chosen to ride Double Grand Slam. So I don't think we're in for an upset here. I think the race runners are going to dominate the finish.
Well, Graham, going with the experience of the 2 runners, numbers 3 and 9, and hoping for a form result in the bar pot and the place accumulator. But as we mentioned, we are playing blind with the first-timers. Keep an eye on the betting. Of course, wait for those comments that should come through from the course for these first-timers. But numbers 2 and 4 are the runners that Gam singled out as the first-timers.
2 and 9.
Possibly 2 and 9 are the first-timers. And you can add 4 to that, Graham, because Quick Trip, you mentioned well-bred. So 2, 4, and are the first-timers. 3 and 9 are the race runners. Those are the runners to play around race number 1. Race number 2 is over 1,250 meters, and this is where the pick 6 will start at 13:20. And again, a few first-timers in the race. I'll give you the betting, Graham, at the time of recording. Just the horses in single figures. Number 5, Mojo Man at 9-2. Number 7, Zumi at even money. And number 11, Snow Pilot at 28-10. Graham, we know how good Outlaw King is. That's the Dean Kannemeyer runner, and I can't wait to see this horse during KZN Champion season. But I've got something that I've picked out here, and I can't see why there's such a big discrepancy in the odds. Zumi at even money and 5 Mojo Man at 9-2. And when Mojo Man was debuting against Zumi, who was having his second start, there wasn't much that separated them, just over a length, Graham. Is that big discrepancy in betting because of Zumi's last start against winners on Derby Day?
Yeah, it's also because there's been a flood of money for number 7, Zumi. He was, in fact, priced up at 5-2, but they've climbed into the Brett Crawford runner, the son of Kirari, so that has shortened dramatically in the anti-post market, number 7, Zumi. But you're quite right, there's not much to choose on past form between numbers 5, Mojo Man, and number 7, Zumi. They are my top two choices. I am going with number 7, Zumi, but number 5, Mojo Man, certainly poses a serious threat. And then, of course, there's number 11, Snow Pilot, out of that wonderful race mare, Snow Dance, by Lancaster Bomber. Wasn't disgraced on debut. It was a fair debut effort, does have an awkward draw to overcome. Hence, I prefer the chances of number 5, Mojo Man, and number 7, Zumi. But the money seems to suggest that they're really confident that number 7, Zumi, will confirm the form with number 5, Mojo Man, but there shouldn't be too much to choose between them.
Or just numbers 5 and 7? Are we including 11 as well?
Certainly in the pick 6, I think you've got to throw in number 11, Snow Pilot. You'd look a little foolish. It's hard to be categoric with 2-year-old form, as you know. And all of these horses are having their first runs at Hollywoodbets Durbanville. It's a far different kettle of fish to racing down the straight at Hollywoodbets Kenilworth. So there are all kinds of factors that could come into play here. So I would, in the buy pot and the place accumulator, just numbers 5 and 7, possibly even banker number 7. But in the pick 6, I would certainly include numbers 5, Mojo Man, 7, Zumi, and 11, Snow Pilot.
Yeah, I'm with Snow Pilot as well for the pick 6, Graham. I was quietly fancied on debut. So numbers 5, 7, and 11. Again, race number 2, hoping for a form result there. Race 3 is at 13:55. It's over 1,400 meters. This is a maiden plate. And this is how they're betting. Number 1 is at 6-1. Number 3, Mighty Mac, is at 5-2. These are horses in single figures. 11 at 9-2. 12 at 5-1. And 13, Oliver the Mellows Mount, at 7-1. I've tried to narrow it down, Graham, and for the place accumulator, I think numbers 3, 12, and 13 look to be the principals. But in the pick 6, I think, whilst there are horses here that you could possibly ignore on current form, you could get an odd type of result here, Graham.
There's no doubt about it, because obviously if you talk about some of the form runners, number 11, Run For Me, that you've mentioned, number 12, Aspect, and number 13, Oliver, again, they're drawn very poorly towards the outside in this 1,400-meter race. It's not going to make their job any easier. For that reason, there's lots to like about number 3, Mighty Mac. Has run third in every one of its starts to date, all 3 of its starts to date. Last time out, very close up behind Katsu. That Run For Me ran 4th in that race, and Aspect ran 2nd. I'm not sure how strong that form line is. It was that Work Riders versus Jockeys race, and I'm not quite sure whether that form line is going to stand up. But Mighty Mac has shown promise in all 3 of his starts, so he must get the nod and must be the top choice. But like you said, there is every possibility of an upset. Number 1, Cafe Culture, that shortened in the anti-post market, so there's a bit of confidence around that Cafe Culture is going to run a better race. Didn't particularly perform well last time out. And then if you can include a complete roughie into the pick 6, I would suggest you also include number 10, Laughing William. So for me, from a pick 6 point of view, you've got to consider all of numbers 1, 3, 10, 11, 12, and 13. But perhaps from a bipod and a place accumulator point of view, perhaps we can go a little bit shorter.
Well, you either on either side of the fence, you're looking for a result, you have to go as wide as possible, or you think it's going to be a form result. And even though these horses are poorly drawn, as Graham mentioned, they will make their presence felt and possibly fight out the finish. Number 1, this horse called Cafe Culture. If you're willing to ignore that last start, this time round from draw 1, we'll see if this horse can put that last run behind him, because he must have strong winning claims on his first 2 starts. Race number 4, this is a Class 4, fillies and mares, over 2,000 meters. And they're betting number 1, 6-1, 2, 11-2, 3 at 28-10, and then 5, Zippy, over at 17-10, 6 at 8-1, and it's 10-1 and better the balance. Very interesting, Graham, that you can find a maiden. That's the second pick in the betting market, and I'm talking about Supreme Dream, who's had, 5 starts for 3 places. and 28 to 10. The second pick behind number 5, Zippy Over at 17 to 10. Is that horse too short as a maiden against a horse like Zippy Win Over?
No, I don't think so. I think Busy Lizzie there has come out to frank that form by running well in her post-maiden run. So I think what Brett Crawford's thinking is, there's obviously not too many 2,000-meter maidens around, and he's clearly looking to go further with his daughter of Master of My Fate, Supreme Dream. She's beautifully bred. She's owned by Lou Bales. She's run second in the last 2 starts. She's going the right way. And as a maiden, has 55.5 to shoulder, receiving 4.5 kilograms from Zippy Over, who's got the right sort of form, along with number 2, Soft Touch. It's a trappy little race, but I'm happy to go with 5 Zippy Over, 3 Supreme Dream, and 2 Soft Touch. If you want to go one more, then obviously the Snaith runner, number 1, Peut-être Moi, possibly. But again, here I'm not really expecting too much of a result. I think that 5 Zippy Over represents a favourite's chance. But I think the maiden Supreme Dream is very much alive. But if you like number 5 Zippy Over, then based on their last run behind Sarki, you've also got to like number 2 Soft Touch, who's a lot easier to back. It's quite crazy, actually. Zippy Over's 17 to 10, as you've mentioned. There was only a half a length between her and Soft Touch last time out, and Soft Touch is easy to back at around 6 to 1. There's been a little bit of anti-post support for number 6 Estimated. That won its maiden the other day. Has only had the 3-start scope for improvement. But 5, 3, 2, and 1, my top 4. But certainly 5, 3, and 2 to go into the Big Six.
That's race number 4. Now, race number 5, I'm hoping that GH Graham Hawkins can be on my side with this horse, because I like a horse here. It's the Cape Sea Stakes, 2,000 meters. Number 2 is 8 to 1. Number 3 is a 2 to 1 shot. 9 to 2, number 4, 5 to 2, number 5, 7 to 1, number 6, and then 8 to 1, number 8. Now, Graham, numbers 1, 2, and 7 are maidens. Number 3 is a filly. I'd like to add that there are a few that are suspect over the distance, and I'm just hoping the horse that I've chosen will be suited to the course, because I don't think this horse is a 7 to 1 shot, Graham. Coronation Time, it's Enion and Fanikek. I think this horse is very generously priced up, a winner over the distance. If he's suited to the course and he doesn't find himself too far off them. I know when he won his maiden, he came from the clouds, but then he was a bit more handy when he won out the maidens. If the course suits him, 7 to 1, Graham, I mean, that is generous against this type of field.
It is generous, and I think this is a wide-open race. Virginia Sweet, as you mentioned, is the favourite. She's beautifully bred. Now, obviously, she beat Coronation Time quite comfortably last time out when they raced behind Mr. Monaco. That was on the 20th of February. Virginia Sweet ran second, beaten 4 1/4 lengths, and Coronation Time ran third, beaten 7 1/4 lengths. So there was 3 lengths between them. They meet at the same weight terms. They meet over the same distance, but obviously this time around, it's a different racetrack. In that same race, Machete Man was 5th, a long way behind, 13 lengths behind the winner, after setting a crazy pace and blowing himself out the water early in the stretch. I think that Machete Man will be given a more judicious ride by Keegan DeMello. He gets aboard this horse for only the 3rd time, and he's won on Machete Man as Keegan DeMello. So that's another I would throw in, who I think is a good value. So your selection, Coronation Time, I think is very much alive. I think Machete Man is very much alive, even though on collateral form it would appear that number 3, Virginia Sweet, has got them comfortably beaten. So my top 3 would be numbers 3, 6, and 8. And I think that's the minimum you need to go into the pick 6. The value does lie with Coronation Time and Machete Man to perhaps at Hollywoodbets Durbanville turn it around with the filly. Elegant Noble, doubling up. Obviously, they come into the race with some sort of a chance. It's a wide-open race. It's not a race that I trust. But I think 3, 6, and 8 a viable shortlist.
6 and 8 for Graham, and I'm just hoping that Coronation Time can, as Graham mentioned, reverse the form with the filly number 3, Virginia Sweet, at a different track this time round. 2,000 meters, 7 to 1 Coronation Time. Graham thinks numbers 3, 6, and 8 could be the principals here Of course, they all coming from the same form line when they last met. On to the penultimate race on the card. It's quick and fast here, Graham, with 7 races. We're on to race number 6 now. This is the Cape Turf Club Class 5 for fillies and mares over 1,400 meters. Now, this race, we need some guidance. We need your guidance to try and narrow it down, Graham, because number 2 is at 7-1, 5 at 5-1, 6 at 4-1, 8 at 3-1, 9 at 7-1. The runner that I've just jotted down the betting because I think represents some value here is Jewel Ray at 14-1. 13 Cruising California is another runner that I like as a roughie that's in double figures. But you can see how wide open it is here, Graham. If I had to choose 2 horses that I think could upset, my 2 numbers are 11 and 13. I think I did the show with you last time, Graham, where I said just keep an eye on this horse, Cruising California, and see how he comes back, how she comes back. And that was a fair comeback run.
Wasn't a bad effort. The draw is not going to help. Both Jewel Ray and Cruising California come out of that philosophized form line. They have awkward draws, but they obviously have the credentials to be competitive. Quite frankly, I can't be of much help here. This is the most difficult race on the card. It's Greg Enion versus the field. In the old days, I would have said to you, you banker the Greg Enion coupling of number 6, Veronique, and number 8, Fly to Rio, or you take the field. And that's the way I'm playing it. And I'm going to, I do respect, obviously, your input, and I do respect the fact that Jewel Ray and Cruise in California could upset the Appleworks. And of course, this is a race that is ripe for an upset. But I'm going to go with the Greg Enion coupling. I'm going to just limit my selections in the pick 6 to numbers 6 and 8, put my hands together, close my eyes, and hold my breath, because it's really very difficult. There are no clear-cut horses to consider here, but I think Veronique and Fly to Rio do set the standard, and it's Enion versus the field.
Okay, this is what I'm going to suggest to the guys out there. Racing fans, this is what you do in race number 6. You play 6 and 8 in the place accumulates at the bar pot. And you play another one, 6, 8, 11, and 13. And that's in the pick 6. And then what you do for the quartet, you take 6 and 8 roving by the field, and then you take 11 and 13 roving by the field, and then you box all 4 horses for the exacta and the trifecta. Who knows? Who knows? You may just get it right. I think if these 2 roving bankers come either way with the field, you could get some proper cash here in race number 6. So 6, 8, 11, and 13 are going to be the numbers that you're going to play around here for the Gallop TV team for race number 6 in a wide open. If you get through this race in the exotics with a minimum spend, I think you have done exceptionally well, because as Graham mentioned, it's a field of 14 that go to post, and it looks tough to catch anything there. Race number 7 over 1,250 meters is a class 4. This is how they're betting. Number 1, Poltergeist at 9-2. 2, Paper Trail. Keep an eye on this horse. Loves the course, 8-1. Number 3, 8-1. Number 7, 4-1. And then it is number 12, Felskoon, who's proving very, very costly to follow at 9-2. And I see 13, I just had a look at it, is a scratching now, Graham. I just took that down from the SA Horse Racing website. By the way, number 11, WAG, is a 9-2 shot. So 13 is a scratching here, Graham. It is confirmed on the SA Horse Racing website. What's your thinking? If we're running in the, let's call it the pick 6, Graham. If you're running in the pick 6, how confident can you be with what there's 12 runners going up? Let's call it 6 runners. If you have 6 runners in the pick 6, how confident can you be that you'll get through?
No, I think you can be pretty confident. You clearly like the horse that I found. There's a bit of 10-1 if you're shopping around for number 2, Paper Trail. That, for me, is my find in this race. His course and distance form, as you've mentioned, 3 starts, Hollywoodbets Durbanville over 12.50 for 2 wins and a third. He's dropping in the ratings. He's well drawn in gate number 2. He's likely to go to the front. He steps back in trip. His last 2 runs were over 1,600 and over 1,400. On both occasions, he's led. His rating has come tumbling down from 83 to 66. I think 10-1 is a huge price. About number 2, Paper Trail, is my play of the day in terms of having an outright bet at good odds. I think number 1, Poltergeist, is probably his principal threat. They're both well drawn. Obviously, Poltergeist representing the Richard Fareed, Justin Snaith combination. They're drawn in gates 1 and 2. And Poltergeist could have the measure of Fort Red on past form. Not much to choose between them, but Poltergeist also very good form over the course and distance. 5 starts, 2 wins, a third, a second, and a fourth. But Fort Red, equally at home at Hollywoodbets Durbanville, so it's an interesting race. But I think that Poltergeist could finish ahead of Fort Red. Fort Red is drawn in gate 7. Then obviously 11 Wayag, who returned to form last time out, beating Fort Red. And as you mentioned, the hard to follow number 12, Felskun, from the widest draw of all. He's got it all to do. So, but you need to obviously include those in the last leg of the pick sticks if you're looking to make sure you get through, along with number 3, Superior Leader, who's also a winner at the course. But my play for the day, D's, number 2, Paper Trail. I think if you shop around, you can get 10 to 1. He's generally 8 to 1, but I think he represents huge each-way value at those odds.
I'm in total agreement with that selection, Graham. In the last race, number 2, Paper. Imagine you got a banker at the time of recording, a 10 to 1 bank. You very rarely find that, but if you find it, then you found gold. 10 to 1 at the time of recording, Paper Trail. And I agree with Graham. I think this horse, number 7, Fort Red, between himself and number 1, Poltergeist, and Wag, which is number 11, there shouldn't be much to choose between those 3. And then if you're still a fan of Felskun, not a fan, I mean, if you still want to go for Felskun, Brett wouldn't be taking his chances from this wider draw here unless he thinks, though, the course may suit a horse that does show natural gate speed. So, Paper Trail in the last. Graham, have you given a suggested bet for the show?
No, unfortunately not, but I think the bipod is the bet to play. It's one of my favorite bets, and we did talk through all the horses as we went through the races. But on top of that, as you heard with our last race, the each-way play of the day is Paper Trail in the last.
Paper Trail in the last at 10 to 1, and then I'm going to go with my value in the race, and that came up quite earlier on in the meeting. Not that early. I think it was race number 5, if I'm not mistaken. That is Coronation Time. Time of recording, 7 to 1 Coronation Time. Time of recording, Paper Trail at 10 to 1. What that gives you, Graham, 8 times 11, 88 minus 1. We'll call it 85 to 1. That is the double for Hollywoodbets Durbanville on this Tuesday. Thanks a lot, Graham. And just around the corner now, you must be warming up and getting very busy for our KZN Champion season, which is, we'll call it, a month and a half away.
Yeah, it's we're starting to warm up our engines, we're starting to rev up the motors, and we're really looking forward to Champion Season 2023. It's going to be a real cracker. As always, Dees, great to be on the show with you.
Thanks a lot, Graham Hawkins, and on behalf of the Gallop TV team, Graham Hompels and myself, Dees Dine, until we meet again, you take care.